Hello, everybody. Both of you. Who knows? I read one number and I hear that over 50,000 people are listening, were listening sometime during the 585 episodes. It's almost a full city listening to my banter. My God. Epidemic, hold it down a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, it's ringing. I can't hear myself think. Whatever that means. Okay, so it's actually Monday midnight. We call it episode 585, late night. Notice I have a new little way of indicating the episode number. See right there? Between Monday and April, there's a little bit of text right there. An expando. That's what it looks like. So you can always check and see if I'm keeping up with the roses. There was no episode on the 5th because as I was setting up for this evening, it turned out to be, I heard the bong and it said, like crap, it's tomorrow. Yeah. Just remember, tomorrow is yesterday's today. But we're in Tomorrowland. It's Monday. And as I get headed back into here, hello. Yep, I'm on that is the middle. I am just right of middle. Regardless of whatever they say. But I happen to be happier where we are now than if Kamala became president. My God, can you imagine? 70 million people voted for her. God. Just think about it. If 140 or 50 million people voted, closer to 150 million, all right? We all listen to the same news. We all live in the same country. And there are, let's say 10 of the most active, popular broadcast channels, news, not news, play news, fake news, you name it. The top 100 channels, whatever. The channels that are broadcasted, here in the USA. I can say some are fake, some are real. You got left wing, you got right wing, you got the middle wing, you got the real right wing, you got the very left wing, and everything in between. And that half the country thinks one way, and the other half of the country thinks the other way. Within like 0.5%. I mean, it's disgusting to think that, with 150 million people voting, it's 100,000 votes. I mean, here, let's do the math. I got a calculator right here. Clear input. Clear that baby a few times. 100,000. This calculator can put all those zeros divided by. Let's just say 150 million people voting. That's 150 million, right? Yeah. Yeah. That's 100,000. That's 150 million equals times 100, because we want to talk about percents. There it is. Point. Oh boy. 0.67%. I tell you, a little higher than I thought. It was like I have up my 0.67%. So, half a percent. No, yeah, a half of 1%. Yeah, crazy. That's the way it is. So, why do you think? Why do you think the borders were left open? You end up with a whole bunch of people showing up here. And sooner or later, some of them are going to get to vote. And that's the hope of people that want some illegal voting. You can blame it on this and blame it on that. I'm just saying, there are a bunch of people in Congress and in the United States that want illegal votes. I don't. I'm at the end of my life cycle. Or not the end, but or else I fall over. No, I'm not at the end of my life cycle. I don't mean the end. I mean almost at the end. My cardiologist says my heart is good for another 10 years. So damned be you guys. Can you imagine 10 more years of this conversation? But so you got half the country one way, half the other. Why would you leave the borders wide open and let in all these people? Bad guys, good guys, scumbags, nice people, and everything in between from foreign countries. Some of these countries opened up their jails and let all the scumbags come in here. Sure. I'm opening up the jails. You better get out of here, because in the next few days, if there are any of you left, my guards will machine gun you to death. So run for your life. And I'm opening up the jails right now. And guess what? That's what happened. 4 or 5 countries in Central and South America opened up their jails, opened up their mental asylums, the places where they have the criminally insane. They opened up all of them. They said, jump the border. If you come back, you're dead. We know who you are. They all ran north, right through Joe Biden's open border. The Congress interviews the head of border protection. Oh yeah, the borders are secure. Meanwhile, there's this guy on Fox News that's watching all these people just walk across, it's like, what do you think, we're all stupid? Geez. So the idea is, if any of these blue states, I'm just making mention of it, allows the undocumented, as they call them. You know, the Constitution calls them illegal aliens. The Constitution calls them illegal aliens. Even back, you know, now we didn't have any back 250 years ago, but they still call them illegal aliens in the Constitution because, you know, this is the land of freedom and there's lots of lands of not freedom. There's lots of places with disease. You know, 250 years ago, we had slavery too. Didn't make that all right either. We fixed that. No more slavery. We have amendments in our Constitution that make sure that the children of slavery are legal. Not the children of the world that shows up here. Illegal. We're talking about slavery, where these people were brought in on boats from Africa and they were enslaved. They had owners. Well, we had a civil war, and guess what? That was stopped. And an amendment was put in our Constitution. I believe it's the 14th Amendment. It basically says, and believe me, I was trained as a scientist, not as a legal scholar to our Constitution. But every once in a while I read it. And where is... there it is. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Turning Point USA. Thank you, Charlie Kirk. Remember him? He was assassinated because the left couldn't stand the fact that he was educating a lot of Americans about, and particularly the youth, about the American Constitution and the conservative way. All right, so here it is. I'll turn the lights up just a little bit. Not that I intend.
It's 12:40.
But you know, it's written in plain English. Yeah. The funny thing about our founders, they all spoke English. And if you want to come in the front door as a legal alien, you have to learn English. So we can page through this little bugger. You got Article 1, you got Article 2, you got sections 1, 2, 3, then all that stuff. There's a section about the flag. Yeah, we got an American flag. Article 5, Article 7. After Article 7, we move into the amendments. The first 10, my gosh, my history teachers in high school, and every school, whatever, they'd be so proud of me. The Bill of Rights. Remember that? The first, yeah. The amendments to the Constitution. Freedom of religion, speech. Oh my God. Amendment number 2. The right to people to bear arms. You know why there was a Second Amendment? To protect the First Amendment. It's not any more complicated than that. Because if you want to make sure that you have to, Congress makes laws to protect for religious freedom, speech freedom, so you don't get machine gunned down because you don't like what the other person is saying, freedom of the press, and the right to peaceably assemble, not throw firearms, to fire bombs, and to aim Roman candles at the police. No. You march in the street, fine. Or if you want to line up somewhere in a circle, in a line, okay, and you just want to listen to each other talk, that's the freedom to assemble. Not to burn stuff down. No. The reason for the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, was to protect the First Amendment. Anyway, I'm not going to go through all the amendments. Amendment number 4, how about that? The right against unreasonable search and seizure. There you go. I was right. The 14th Amendment. That's not part of the first 10, but later on in the Constitution, these aren't actually, let's see, are they? They are 18. Crap. Sorry. Gotta turn the lights up. Yeah. There is a little date under the number. Let me put on my superfragilistic expialidocious. Whoa! Now I can see it. Yeah. 1868. All right? We didn't really have an immigration problem. We had a slavery problem. We fixed that. Yeah. Finally. Took a civil war to stop it. Thank you. Abe Lincoln. He was a Republican, by the way. In case you Democrats have a loss of memory. But in 1868, the 14th Amendment, which, followed the Civil War and, sifting through, how we're going to take care of this slavery thing, and everyone, there's no more slavery. So you had a bunch of slaves that became citizens, and their children became citizens. The ones in their bellies became citizens. All persons born or naturalized in the United States are citizens of the United States, wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall get in the way of their citizenship. As a little ad-libbing by me. Didn't want to read all the words. We don't have time to go through all this. Nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, property, without the due process of law, nor deny to any such person within the jurisdiction of the equal protection of all the laws. of the United States of America. Yeah. And so that's section 1. That was loaded, huh? Has nothing to do with Chinese people coming over here, having babies, calling them American citizens, and then going back home. Yeah. Does that say anything about people flying in and having babies? Well, how the hell did that become the way of the land? Leave it to these fancy talking, lawyers to figure out how to wiggle that in there. Well, that's going to be a hard pill to swallow for our people in the Supreme Court to read the 14th Amendment, Section 1, and to figure out how the hell we're letting all these people become citizens in this country. Voting. They have the right to vote, goddammit. Oh, pardon me. Didn't mean to use our Lord's name in vain, particularly on Easter. It's Easter Monday, so sorry about that. Yeah. 1868. So, 150 years later, we've perverted our own Constitution into doing something that it did not intend to do. And yet, there are people in courts that put the hand on the Bible and say, hey, that's the way it is. Yeah, no. So, Trump raised his hand in the air with his Department of Justice and so forth and said, wait a minute. Let's can you mind telling me how this is possible? I'm looking, yes, he has people. I don't have people, but I had this beautiful booklet that was given me. I've got a whole pile of them back here. When I go out to dinner with a new set of people, one of the things I do before we end our dinner is I hand out everybody a copy of the Constitution. I've got a bunch of them behind me. Sometimes, it's something you can keep in your pocket. Yeah? Why not? It's important. You can talk about it among each other. Maybe so you can understand what the hell's going on in the news. You know what the first most dangerous thing there is? Is an uneducated American, particularly one that votes. And you know what the second most dangerous thing is? An uninformed electorate. In other words, when the people that have the right to vote don't become informed, listen to the news. God, does everything have to be sports and, sports is great. It's not everything. Now you got between now and November to understand what's going on around here. And once you learn what's going on around here, then vote the way you think, not the way some fast-talking advertisement is going to tell you what to do. Unfortunately, too many people, and believe me, I'm a scientist. I'm not a, a historian or a In my in my second or third life, I haven't determined which, I'd like to come back as a constitutional attorney. Yeah. In my next life, I want to come back in as a good doctor. Medical school. I had scholarships to medical school and didn't take advantage of them, which I look back on, and say, "Phew, what a mistake." But on the other hand, I look back to 47 years ago and say, and even though I didn't do that, I met old Miss Marilyn. Oh, God. God save me. What a blessing that was. Whew. And we've been in the same place since 1980. February 22nd of 1980 is when I actually had my first conversation with Marilyn. What is this? This is hey Siri, show me a calendar of February 1980.
You have 9 events on February 1st, 1980 until February 29th, 1980.
Hey Siri, I want to see a calendar of the entire month of February 1980.
You have 9 events on February
I don't want to
1st,
stop.
until February 20.
God, I don't want to hear the events. I want to see a calendar of the month of February 1980. Can you show me that?
There's nothing scheduled on February 1st, 1980.
Can you believe this? Hey
There's
Siri.
nothing scheduled.
Hey Siri, you're stupid.
That's not nice.
I know. Show me a calendar, all 28 days of February 1980.
You have 9 events on February 1st, 1980 until.
Jesus. Hey Siri, show me a calendar of February 1980.
You have 9 events on February 1st, 1980 until February 29th.
Here we go. Jesus.
It's 1 o'clock.
No, not even it. God, surrounded by assassins. There's no other way of doing it. Oh. Alexa, turn on the den lights. It must be 1 a.m. It is. I don't know what it is about. I must have said something that said, turn off all the lights at 1 a.m. Nope. Alexa, turn on the den lights. She turns them off twice. What are you going to do? Hey Siri, what was an appointment I had on February of 1980? On February 19th.
On February 19th, 2027, you have 4 events.
This is, let's see, how am I going to do this? Uh-huh. Hey, Grok. Is there a Grok in the house? I forgot how to turn that on. I'm stuck with Hey Siri. Hey Siri, show me my appointments of February 19th, 1980.
First evening is scheduled for all day February 19th.
Yeah. Let's try this. Get rid of that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well. Mm. It's amazing. These computers are so smart. I can't even. These calendars are great for booking appointments. They're really stupid if you're trying to go back in history. I can't. Yeah, I don't want to waste a lot of time. I'm in a big hurry. Anyway, I believe it's 219. Hey Siri, is 2/19/1980 a Friday?
You want to
Let's try ChatGPT. The rest of you are morons.
ChatGPT asks, I'm here and ready to help. What would you like to try?
Can you show me a calendar of February in 1980?
Here's an answer from ChatGPT.
Thank you.
No problem.
ChatGPT knows how to do this. What's the matter with the rest of you? So I did a print screen because it has a habit of dropping the results. Here's a calendar. There we go. Thank God. Finally. All right. I'll be damned. There's the date right there. Friday is February 22nd. Okay. 2/22/1980. That is a date to remember. That is the first time that I had any kind of a conversation with old Miss Marilyn. Oh, yeah. Lucky lad I am. Yeah, right there. I took ChatGPT in 9 tries. Oh, God. Can't just have a book with a calendar. Everything's got to be electronic. One stab at old ChatGPT. Save that to us. 222. Yeah, I mean that's what Marilyn told me. 222. And it was about 8:15 at night. You want to know how that was? Most of you don't. I understand. I'll just tell you real quick. There was a seminar being held at the Sheraton Rivergate. There's a hotel at the Miami airport. Royal Trustco is an international bank headquartered in Montreal. Offices in Dubai, London, all Venezuela, all the fancy places. So a memo went out to all the executive managers of Royal Trust, for the state of Florida, in which it owned a commercial bank. It was, at the time, the only international bank that was permitted to own a USA bank in the United States. The Royal Trust had that exclusive. They figured out a loophole and they jumped right through it, bought a commercial bank in southwest Miami called the International Bank of Miami, I think, or something like that. Yeah. They changed it to Royal Trust Bank of Miami. It went on to buy 30 banks, 34, I think, branches, banks. Back then they didn't have branch banking, so every bank was a separate bank. Can you imagine? It's up to 1980. There wasn't branch banking in the state of Florida in 1980, no. Every bank was a separate bank. You had the Barnett Bank of Miami, you had the Barnett Bank of Tampa, you had the Barnett Bank of Clearwater. There were 40-something Barnett banks. There was 34 Royal Trust banks. Well, in the state of Florida, I'm speaking of. Anyway, all the managers, senior level managers in the state of Florida were ordered to pick somebody that's going to run the company 10 years from now. Just imagine who that person is on your staff that will run some kind of a department, run an important department in the company. And send them to Miami, because we're going to put them through a 1-week training session. We're going to fly them to Miami. We'll fly them back. We'll put them up into Sheraton Rivergate. They must stay there. They attend all-day classes. They go to dinner together. If they want to, after 8 p.m., they can go wherever the hell they want to go. But at 8 a.m. the next morning, they better be at class the next day, or I'll send them home. So we had a 5-day intensive morning, noon, and night, breakfast, lunch, dinner, 20 some of those. And then at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on Friday, we had we took over the Daphne Lounge in the ground floor of the Sheraton Rivergate. No other time in the history of the Sheraton Rivergate did they allow their Daphne Lounge to be shut down and have the exclusive use of some corporate entity or a wedding or anything. No, you couldn't shut down the whole Daphne Lounge. But Royal Trust made it happen. And the Royal Trust people in Montreal and various other locations, 14 senior executives for Royal Trust Co. flew into Miami to sign certificates and hand them out to the 40 participants that went through this training thingy. And there were 10 others that got certificates signed by these kinds of people. For those that were the facilitators to help the participants participate. Yeah. So that went on. They hand out shakes. Oh my God, pictures taken, all this kind of stuff. Long before the iPhone. So selfies, no one ever thought of a selfie. Yeah, pictures were taken, with 35 millimeter cameras and film and all that stuff. There wasn't any digital back then, not for, the only digital was, TV cameras, as I remember. Anyway. Well, so 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. So then, so let's say 4 to 5:30, they had all this fancy, cocktails, shrimp, big bowls of shrimp and all this stuff, finger food all over the place. And, wanted to sit down dinner, all finger food, because, we have the people from Jacksonville, Florida, get ready for the transfer vehicle because you're going to be transported over to Gate 27, Terminal E. So anybody that came from Jacksonville, they had to go get their bags. Everything was all lined up and organized at the front lobby of the Sheridan River Gate. And the persons from Jacksonville, they'd quickly march over to the, get their bags, get on the bus thing they had, and because it was an airport hotel, so you just go around the circle and end up over in the gates, so it's pretty easy to do. And then, 15 minutes later, we're all appealing here in Tampa, Florida. Would you please gather to pick up your bags and move over to the gate 33, Terminal B. So, all that, and people from Tampa, Clearwater, Orlando, so by the time it got to be around, so, basically that was the end of the show. People got back on their airplanes, went back home, and all got tucked back in their own little place of living, and, that was that. Well, there are a few of us, one, 2, 3, 4. It was like 8 or 10 of us that lived in, Broward County or Dade County, which are the two, I guess, largest counties in South Florida, or probably Florida, period. And so there were 8 or 10 of us that were actually had something to do with putting on this whole presentation or watching over it or, whatever. So, by 8 o'clock, I'm sitting there with Jill Thagard and Karen Brown, head of personnel. Jill Thagard was, head of treasury, the actual treasury of the bank, and Jimmy was one of the facilitators, I handled, real estate lending or something. Yeah. So, or my portion of real estate lending. Tony Romeo and I did real estate. So by about 8 o'clock, I'm sitting with Karen Brown, Jill Thagard, myself, and then Marilyn was behind me somewhere with a group of people, that I did. I didn't really turn around. We were, the three of us, me and these two ladies were just yakking a mile a minute, so I didn't really know who was behind me. And people were leaving, and so I didn't know. We had the whole Daphne Lounge was big, probably holds 150 people, and it was, just 7 or 8 of us. Most of the shrimp had been eaten. I don't know. Anyway, so we were drinking, I think, white wine. And then, so I was sitting at a 4-top, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the seat over to my right was empty. Karen Brown's across from me. Jill Thagard's on the left of me. I'm sitting in my seat. Let's say it's 6 o'clock. So the 3 o'clock position was open. And all of a sudden, this lady Marilyn comes over and says hi to, I stood up. Hey, Marilyn. So, that was like the first time that Marilyn and I actually, looked at each other and said, hi, how are you? Now, I saw Marilyn walk back and forth in front of my office. I had a glass office, for years. She was at International. I know she used to carry over her loan files over to Jerry Gillian, for the loan committee, the board meeting, on Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday, whenever that was. So I know I used to see her walk back and forth in the elevator periodically, every once a week or so. She'd talk with Bob Curtis or Romeo, and I never happened to be standing anywhere near the elevator when she would, be coming or going. So I really never had an opportunity to ever say hi to her before February 22nd at 8:15 when she came over, because the 3 people at her table all got up and left, and she was left by herself. So she walked over to the only remaining table with an empty seat, sitting at the 3 o'clock position, and I'm at 6 o'clock. Jill Thagard's at 9 o'clock. Karen Brown's at midnight. And we sat there, yakking, with all kinds of stuff about the seminar and people that they had met, that came from different cities. It was really quite interesting. As a facilitator, I actually never knew where Marilyn was sitting in the audience somewhere. I just did my thing. And, when you're teaching a bunch of strangers, you get to maybe see the front row, but you really don't know who they are. The only people I knew is the 4 or 5 people that were like supporting my talk, my speech, my session, whatever. I don't even remember what I talked about, quite frankly. I remember who sat in what seat position. I don't actually remember the topic that I spoke about. It might have been loan participations or something. It's something to do with, higher level lending kind of techniques. I'm making it up. I have no clue. But I had to prepare, a 3-hour segment, and I had to have an outline for a 3-hour segment. I had to produce handouts for a 3-hour segment. I didn't have to copy them. I had some staff to deal with, some of the more mundane things about certainly. That's it. That's the first time I ever said hello to good old Marilyn. And, about 10:30, 10:45 at night, Karen Brown and Jill Thagard, they said, hey, we got to go. We're driving together, and she has to drive me back to my car. So the 2 of them got up and left. I looked over to Marilyn. I said, would you like to have one more glass of white wine? She said, yeah. So we sat back down, had because we had like a eighth of 1 inch left in the bottom of her. And they served us another glass of wine and another glass of wine. 10:15 turned into be 12 o'clock, 2 hours later. And, I had an hour drive back to Coral Springs somewhere. And she had a drive out west somewhere, west Dade County, Coral Gables area, just west of Coral Gables, I think. So I said, how about, so I walked her to her car. She said, oh, you don't have to order it. I said, I will walk you to your car. It's after midnight, and I'm not going to have you attacked in the parking lot. Well, where the last time you saw Marilyn? I want to say driving off, to her home, which she did, and I did. Yeah. Yeah. So right before she closed her door, rolled down the window, and I said, how about if I call you at 10 o'clock? Would you like to have lunch on Monday? She said, absolutely. So I said, let's do that. So on Monday morning, I looked at my watch. I said, hello, watch. I set a little alarm in my, we had computers at our workplace. They weren't, I don't remember whether they were laptops in 1980. I don't forget that. Didn't have cell phones. Yeah, no, I had to call it from my office phone. So I call her, she was, whatever her number was, she wrote it down on something. So I called her, looked her up on the directory. I said, hello, Marilyn. Guess who this is? Jumping Jiminy over here in real estate. I have made a reservation for us at the Charade. And I drive a white Mercedes 300 diesel with a blue interior. I will pick you up in front of your building at 11:50. It's 10 minutes to 12. Can you do that? She said, well, why, yes. I said, okay, I'll pick you up in a couple hours. So I did. I hung up the phone, picked her up at 11:55. We drove up to the Charade, got there at noon. On the button, I had a reservation all made. I said, we want to sit right up on the second deck in table 72. Happen to know the table numbers. And we probably had lunches there for the next couple of years. Monday lunch, table 72. We had a different restaurant for different days of the week. I had to have lunch. I told Marilyn, I said, I have to have lunch with Bob Curtis and Tonya at least twice a week. So Mondays is not one of them. So we can have Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Wednesday, Friday with Bob, with Uncle Bob. Wednesday and Friday is Uncle Bob. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday is us. And we were having breakfast, lunch, and dinner ever since. For 46 years. Wow. I'm listening to my dog is snoring behind me. Yeah. Oh gosh. Little puppies. Anyway, so that's my story about my first encounter with Marilyn. It's been marvelous. What a star. What's going on with the New York Post? Oh, yeah, this. Oh, my goodness. These two cousins. The Lux. That's like a French luxury living nieces and grandniece of Iran's ruthless slain General Qasem Soleimani. You know who slayed him? Trump threw a JDAM missile in the middle of his BMW as they were racing off to dinner one night with their three buddies. Bam! They got vaporized. Well, this is the niece and the grandniece. Yeah, that guy that Trump took out in the 45th president of the United States. Only in America could we live the 45th president of the United States and now the 47th president of the United States, who happens to be the same person. How unique. There was one other president that had a term. He was not president for the next 4 years and then was president again. You know who that president was? Grover Cleveland. You can look it up. I think I remember that right. And go figure. Trump gets elected again. They knew what they were getting this time. And he does things, he knows right from wrong. And he's a complicated person. He's a very smart person, we're told. You can listen to him talk. He knows everybody he's talked with. He knows them by name. We had, by the end of Mr. Biden's presidency, I wonder if he knew his own name, it seems almost. Of course, the media makes you up to be an idiot if they want to make you up as an idiot. That's the bad, if the only time the media shows you picking your nose, guess what? You're a nose picker. My grandfather told me. Well, same thing goes for when you fall out of favor with the media, and the only time they show you is when you're stumbling and fumbling and can't remember what the hell day of the week it is. They can make you out to be a fool even if you're not. But there is a definite difference in the presence of mind and the aptitude. When you get older, I guess your aptitude just falls away, You don't keep your brain going and stuff like that, your brain stops going. So the answer to that is keep your brain going. Stay active doing something. I'm great at talking to nobody. I don't know how many people are live listening to this. I get text messages now and then telling me to hurry up, make your point. All right, I'm going to make a point. I'm going to make a point not to talk about that again. All right, I have these photos that I take pictures of. Here's a friend of mine. Whoops. Uh-oh. I don't know what I started, but I want to stop it. We don't want to select anything. I don't want to be in the middle of anything. Let's stop that. Oh my God, I got so many things going here. Too many things going on. Yeah, let's turn all this stuff off. Yeah, now let's go to my photo album, like I normally do. There we are. Go to favorites. All right. Lots of favorites. we start off with that one, you know, like today, this evening, we start episode 585. There, late night. Yes, it is. It's midnight. It's 1:32 a.m. Monday morning. No broadcasting activity on Sunday, but late night on Monday, yes. So you're either an insomniac and have nothing to do but to listen to Jimmy, or you work late at night and you just happen to be riding down I-10 going across the bottom part of the United States, and you got nothing better to do than to go into, YouTube, and to do a search for FAU for you, and listen to old Jimbo whenever he happens to pop up. You can, these get recorded, so you can go to FAU for you at any time and listen to a previous broadcast, or you can come in the middle of one and then listen to the beginning of it later. Here's this. Remember, I showed you a piece of this, your post. This was Sunday. That was Sunday's cover. They published this, it's like a 14 by 14 square, this is like the cover page, as I remember, it's like a 14 by 14, 13 by 13, and it has like maybe 50 pages in it, maybe 20 pages. I kind of forget how many pages. 40 pages. And the back cover has something to do with the sport, baseball, football, whatever, basketball. This is the front cover, the Sunday edition. It's like a couple bucks. Yeah, there it is. See, $2 over here. Late City. Yeah. Read all about it. They have these people standing on street corners in Manhattan selling these things. Some people get them delivered to their homes in the surrounding, the 35 million people that surround Manhattan. Whew. Talk about a financial capital. It has to be a financial capital just to feed 35 million people. My God. Anyway, this is one of the jets that got them. The F-15. This is one of the ones that got shot down, where we recovered both pilot and the guy that sits behind the pilot that handles all the gadgets. Took us 2 extra days finding the guy, because when you eject, can you imagine? Your jet is traveling at 450 miles an hour, and you got a heat-seeking missile flying up your ass, and moments before it, explodes, you eject, because 1/10 of a second later, 100 milliseconds later, the whole thing turns into a complete fireball. You got to be out of there. So you hit the eject button. So they both hit their separate eject buttons. They both decide eject right away, and they ejected. Well, when the plane's going 400 miles an hour, or I don't know how fast it was going, you can go faster than the speed of sound. So assuming it was doing some kind of an evasive maneuver, and it was going, let's say, less than 500 miles an hour, total guess. And if they were just 50 milliseconds difference in exploding their ejection seat, it does explode out of the cockpit, into, a facing wind of 400 miles an hour. So, you got to do everything to keep your head on straight. And, so your seat ejects, and then another explosive charge goes off to explode your parachute. Because that doesn't explode right away, because, you give yourself a couple of seconds for the wind to slow you down a little bit, because if you ejected your parachute immediately, it would probably completely rip off the, you know, cords would break or snap or something, you know. So there's some reasonable, you know, count to 3 or count to, you know, I don't know anything about the ejection seat, you know, parameters, but I would guess, you know, you got to count to 5, you'd think, you know. You're certainly not going to hit the ground in 5 seconds. So give yourself, you know, a little room to slow down just a bit. So when you explode the parachute, it's likely not going to rip off your, you know, your seat and your body and where I think it's ejected. I think it's connected to the seat, the exploding seat, and then you're strapped to the seat, you know, so it doesn't rip your body apart. Yeah. And then, you know, and then you hit the ground and you get out of your, gather up your parachute and stick it somewhere, cut it loose, I don't know what. And then you run off, you know, into safety, hide under a tree, hide under a rock, do whatever you got to do. Well, apparently the pilot landed in fairly decent shape. The co-pilot broke his ankle or broke his foot, something to do with, you know, a foot. So he had to hobble off, you know, and he could have been, you know, half a mile away, depending on when the seats would shoot out the parachute. So you're zipping along in the atmosphere without a parachute until such time as you have a parachute. So that could make you, you know, a couple of miles apart, a half a mile apart. Well, they landed in separate areas. One landed with a broken ankle, the other one landed without breaking anything. And so he went one way and the other went the other way, and turned out the guy with the broken ankle, he had to climb up 4,000 or 5,000 feet. He got on top of some side of a, you know, a slice of stone, and he found a cave to hide in. And stayed by the mouth of the cave and pushed a button to maybe send a signal to, you know, his compatriots, you know, like a signal beacon, this is where I am, hello. And then, you know, they figured out how to, they communicated another way by code or whatever, so that they understood his physical ailments. If he had any, and he did, he had a broken ankle. So he was one-legged, crawling up several thousand feet of stone somehow. They take extensive classwork and training on, you know, what to do if you ever have to eject, and how you can take care of yourself to make sure you give yourself enough time to be recaptured by your compatriots, as opposed to being captured by the enemy and being paraded around, you know. Anyway, so a little factoid. This is the first time in American military history that 2 airplanes, jets or whatever, were fired upon, crashed, and where the pilots and co-pilots were both ejected, and all 4 of them captured by our own troops and brought to safety. First time in American history. That's quite shredder record. Anyway, that's why that picture's there. And last, matter of fact, last Sunday, this is Monday, Sunday, Saturday night, like about 10 o'clock, 10:30, 11 o'clock, 10:15. Yeah, seems like I heard about that. Unbelievable. That's our little bundle of joy. What time was this taken? Oh. This was taken at April 4th at 5:27 p.m. Yep. And look at this, a little doggy in the middle. If I touch that, it's going to tell you what kind of dog it is. Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. Did a picture search. You know, it's almost like, there it is. That's what it looks like. Full grown, full hair. It is a dog breed. It is. It's a pedigree. It's the origin, country of origin is United Kingdom. We have one that is, it's like in that stage of its life cycle. You can see it's all this, it's a special color characteristic for this breed. They call it jade. Yep. But it's interesting, whenever you take a picture of this dog, pets, you know, see, boom, I'll go back there. It's coming out. And watch, I'm going to go back to the next dog picture. And then in about a half a second, a little doggy appears on the dog. Watch. Or maybe I have to have the, I have to have this up. Okay. So I'm going to leave. See, I can page through here and you can see the exit data for all this. So here we go. Here's that. Now, when I go to the next one, it's going to be the dog picture in about a half a second after it pops up. Then a little tiny doggy shows. Ready? 1, 2, 3. There it is. And that compares
it's 1:40.
all the pictures that you can that have been taken of this breed. Compares to, you know, there's an adult version of our dog. Yeah. Proud specimen of the King Charles Cavalier. And someone else told me that this little spot of white on top of the middle of the forehead was a special characteristic of some of the jade dogs. And it was the king's thumbprint. And only those cavaliers would be allowed in the front gate of the castle because it had the king's thumbprint on its forehead. How about that for a story? Not made up by me. There's only 2 people I've heard from in this regard, and that's a senior nurse that flies all over the country. Yeah. Let's see. I'll tell you, doggy pictures, cat pictures. You name it. The dogs are pretty quick. Cats move a little slower. They're easier to take pictures of. The dog, man, they're in There's someone else. All the I have a. Here's a front-facing picture of this one. See right between the eyebrows, that white spot, characteristic of this breed. Every once in a while, there's a white spot right up there. That is King Charles I or King Charles II had touched that dog. Said only those dogs come in the castle unescorted. And the other part of the story is that they would breed these dogs and they knew how to get home. So they would take 4 or 5 of these dogs with them in battle when they would battle other adjacent property owners, or, you know, as things would have it. And if they had won their battle, they would release 2 of these Cavalier Spaniels, and they'd run for days to get back to the castle. They knew where they came from. Oh yeah, they have an unbelievable sense of direction. And they had smart little cookies, I can tell you that. And if they'd show up at the castle front doors, they'd let them in. So they had that little spot on top. That was the king's signature. No other random dog would be allowed in the front door of the castle. No way. Told to me by either someone that's a former FBI person or someone that is a registered nurse, a senior registered nurse. All right, so I'm going back in history here a little bit because I want to show you. I thought I had a couple of. Oops, sorry. Oops. There we are. How come it's not showing up in favorites? There we go. Yeah. So we are on a rollover of Mega Millions. Just so you know, Friday, Tuesday, Friday, Tuesday, Friday, Tuesday. So no one won Friday Mega Million on April 3rd. So you got the 3rd, 4th, 5th. This is 6th. This is Monday. It's early Monday, but it is a Monday. And Tuesday at 11 o'clock is the next draw of Mega Millions. And because no one won the 90 million, because there's a 290 million to 1 chance you do not win, it rolled over to $100 million prize. That's why rollover's there. Roll over to $100. Yeah. This is the winning numbers of the $90 million drawing, so who knows? Maybe you won $1 million. 31, 45, 62, 63, 68 million. Mega Millions ball 15. There you go. Now, one of the reasons why no one probably won the 90 million is because there's 1 through 70 in this machine. Ping pong balls bouncing around. Each one has a number on it, 1 through 70. Okay? And not a single ball, 1 through 30, were picked at random. The first ball picked, the second ball, the 5 balls I've picked, every one of them is over 30. That's a good reason. Because if you use birthdays and all this stuff, birth dates, every one of you guys got knocked out because You know, there's not many days left in a month when the first ball, the only ball picked, is 31. So you're either born, you know, the end of the month, not including February, or you got losing tickets. I don't bother with that. You know, I just picked what do you call it? You know, computer pick. You pick it for me, yeah. Get a couple of tickets. And if you're going to get hit by lightning, you know, matter of fact, you have a better chance of getting hit by lightning than you will at winning this 290 million to 1. 45 states and two jurisdictions. The what do you call it? I guess the Virgin Islands and District of Columbia. Yeah. And 45 states are selling Mega Millions tickets every day, all over the country, including those 2 territories I just mentioned. And there are 223,000 individual Mega Millions lottery retailers that are housed in those 45 states and 2 territorial areas. Those 47 defined areas. 223,000. Holy mackerel. I totally blew that. I asked myself, well, how many retailers do you actually think there are? And I wrote the number down in my mind. And then I said, hey, Siri, what do you think? And it came up with the answer. I had to go to AI mode to get it. 223,000. Yeah. That's a lot of tickets chiming up. The lottery retailer, I interviewed my lottery retailer downstairs just west of me in Sultan's, little Turkish grocery store behind our building, where people go to buy cigarettes and this and that. Not me. I don't smoke. Nope. I simmer, I steam, but I don't smoke. Anyway, I interviewed him and I said, so, you know, if you don't mind me asking, how many, you know what, when you sell a lottery ticket, what is I know you guys make a fee of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6%. It's 5%. Everybody makes 5%. So if I were to buy $100 worth of tickets, you make $5 out of 100. So that's it. But you know, people come, they buy this, they buy that, they buy a lottery ticket, they don't buy a lottery ticket, you know. Every time I buy, you know, sell a lottery ticket here and there. So I make 5% of whatever my lottery, because there are all kinds of different lotteries, you know, there's Powerball and Mega Millions and, you know, I don't know how many lotteries there are. There are at least 2. And you got Lotto and, yeah, there's a bunch. Anyway, 5 or 6 maybe. So this one, on the 27th of April, which is tomorrow in actual terms, not quite 48 hours from now, yeah. $100 million. So what does that mean? If someone decides to be, this is a print screen of my spreadsheet. This is my spreadsheet. This is not anyone else's spreadsheet. I am the author, the sole author of this spreadsheet. I'm a numbers person. People that know me know I'm kind of a numbers scientific person. See in the very top, Mega Millions, in brackets, in italics. Lump sum payout, after tax payout, and dollar values are estimates produced by the author. Yeah, that's me. All data presented have not been confirmed nor endorsed by any lottery. As simple as that. This is strictly all my own math. But I try to do a good job for you. Since I'm doing this, just give all of us, any of us, both of us, an order of magnitude of what might one expect if you were going to play Mega Millions and it was up to $100 million. If you were to decide to go lump sum, what does that mean? Well, in my humble estimation, accent on the word estimation, I think the lump sum payout, which is what? The present value of the future cash flows. Well, what are the future cash flows? There are 30 payments in 29 years and 1 day, because you get paid the first moment, and then there are annual payments thereafter. And it's a 5% growing annuity. This is all by rule or statute. I've looked that up. So if you find out the net present value of those future cash flows, $45.2 million, rounded to the nearest 100,000. You notice all of them. These are all prior lotteries in this series of Mega Millions where no one has won 50 million, 60 million, 70 million, 80, 90, 100 million. So they've been, this is the sixth rollover. The fifth rollover, because it started off in number one. See number one all the way on the very left? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 6. So we're up to 6. So number one was the $50 million Mega Millions, which it didn't have a winner. So it rolled over to 2. So we have 5 rollovers and the initial $50 million version. Anyway, so we're at $100 million grand prize to a single winner. And in my estimation, it's about 45.2 million, rounded to the nearest 100,000. That's what you would put on your TurboTax return if you were to win that. That would be, and you elected to do lump sum. That's what you'd put in your line 11 or whatever in your tax return as your 2026 earnings. Uncle Sam. Now, if you did win that, you're actually not going to get that. You know why? Because the long arm of Uncle Sam is going to withhold 24%. It's called a withholding. You have withholdings when you have a regular paycheck because you estimate your number of exemptions and all that, and you have a withholding. And they withhold it from your paycheck. And you file your tax returns the next April, and then you see how much of that you can get back, if any. Well, in the world of lotteries, the way the statute goes is that Facebook has just bailed out. Look at that. After an hour and a half. God bless. That's the longest Facebook has gone in a long time. Yeah. Anyway, so they withhold 24%, and that 34,532,000, that is the amount of your jackpot that's left over after the withholdings is collected and sent to the IRS So if you have a TD Bank account, for example, just to name one, I happen to have a TD Bank account. So if you don't mind, deposit. Call your branch manager and say, "Hello, branch manager. I happen to have won a recent Mega Millions jackpot. And they're going to be depositing tomorrow night $34,352,000 into your bank. Is there anything further I need to do to put you on warning of that? Or should I go to another bank?" "Oh, no, please don't." I said, "Well, do whatever you need to do. Tell your treasury management people, this is what's going into my regular checkbook. Nowhere else." I've given them the account number and the RNT number. And tonight, they're crediting my account with $34,352,000 in round numbers. That's an estimate. Okay? Here's my phone number. You have all my information on file. You can text me if you need anything further. The routing and transit number of your bank is 0670-14822. Is that correct? She says, "Yes, it is." I was just making sure. I have a copy of the check with me, but I just wanted to triple check. Bank check. Race check. Right check. Anyway, wouldn't that be nice? But know this, James. I'm not giving financial advice. I'm telling myself. The green dot is the last line. It's the $100 million one on Tuesday party. So that'd be Friday. Note to yourself. So after the long arm of Uncle Sam grabs what? 11 million out of your winnings, and it leaves you with a measly 34 million. Know this: you're surely going to be in the 37% tax bracket, right? Well, guess what? After 24%, you're left with 34 million. There's 13% left. 14 plus 13 equals 37. I think, according to Trump's big, beautiful bill, the highest tax bracket is 37%. You're surely in the highest tax bracket, having won 34 million in the calendar year 2026. So be prepared, James, because another 5,876,000 is going to come out of your winnings. And you're only going to be left with, poor baby, 28,476,000. Yep. That's it. So sad. Too bad you're dead. Yep. So after all federal tax, you're going to end up with 28,476,000. Now, if you live in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, California, you may be subject to another 13%, in which another 5.8 million is going to get whacked out of that 28 million, and you only end up with 22 million something. Isn't that disgusting? So, James, if you happen to live in New York, which I did, rent someplace in Florida and make this your permanent resident, and you'll save 5.8 million. If there's ever an incentive, James, for you to move out of New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Illinois, or California, or maybe even Colorado, move to Florida, Texas, or Tennessee. Yeah. Yeah. But James, you don't have to worry about that. because you already moved to Florida. And there is no state income tax. Therefore, all of that $28,476,000, if I had calculated the federal tax correct, which I believe I did, $28 million is yours to spend as you will. Now the alternative is, right, there's the $28,476,000 right there. I'm going to go over to this next slide. There's that. So you see that $28,476,000. If you elect to take, James, if you elect to take the 30 payment annuity on day one, you receive you receive $1,505,000 to the nearest thousand. Now every year that payment grows by 5%, and you'd be amazed by the time you get to payment number 28, 29, 30, it's like 6, 7 million. It's amazing it is a mastery of 5% compounding interest. Want me to show you? I'll show you quickly. I'm going to hit my actual spreadsheet because those other pages were print screens of the actual spreadsheet because I'm afraid of screwing it up with the touch screen. So here is the spreadsheet in living color, and you see the $100 million rollover. I'm going to come up here so you only see one line, and I'm going to go across very carefully. See $1,505,000, that's the first payment. See the second payment, 5% bigger than that payment. You can do the math yourself. The third payment is 5% more, 105% more than the payment before that, and so on. 6. See, payment 4, 5, 6, 7, 7. The 10th payment, which is 9 years. Look at the payment is $2,003,000. Can you suffer with that? We come along here, get to the 20th payment, and you're up to $3,008,000, $3,009,000, $4,190,000, $4,005,000, $4 million. See, when you start getting 5% of 5 million, it's like $250,000. It's like it ends up being big numbers. So when you end up getting to the last payment, you're at $6.2 million almost. Can you imagine? And it started out at $1,505,000. So it grows by 400%. So 5% over 30 payments, 29, grows by 400%. So, yeah, don't be so fast in not taking an annuity. That's the only way you're going to get $100 million out of this Mega Millions business, because you got to go the 29 years. Now, you take the lump sum, it's, $45 million day one, except for the 24% withholding. Now, remember, all these payments are subject to your ordinary income tax. And I don't know about withholding. I imagine, I don't know, if you sign up for annuity, these payments are, I think, ordinary income. But Jim, contact your, do TurboTax. Well, you'll find out, Now, I know when you can, no, I shouldn't say that. So the $1,505,000, I don't know, it's not subject to any, I think see if I've said this correctly. Let's go to the beginning again. Whoops. I gotta go back. I'm gonna go back a lot of years. 1,505, yeah. Now let's look at the column. Let's look at the column heading. Annual annuity. The initial payment is $1,505,000. First payment, pre-tax. That's all I say. But intentionally, I just say pre-tax. Has nothing to do with any state or federal tax. Because I actually don't know. Remember, I did a spreadsheet, and I'm telling myself about these things, and I don't know what the tax law is about this particular annuity. Annuities have different tax characteristics. So I just say pre-tax. I've calculated. There's a very fancy formula underneath that 1,505,000, which we'll talk in another day. There's a very exotic formula underneath that 1,505,000. That's a calculated. I didn't get that from any. I made the calculation myself. It took me 2 weeks to figure out the formula and make it work in numbers, which is the Apple version of Excel. Yeah, I'm a very familiar Excel person for 30 years or so, and the numbers person for the last 15 years. Yeah. But all this, it's all my handiwork here. So I've made it look pretty. I've not made it look like it's official, but I like to make a good looking job, even if it's for myself. Because like just now, I have to refer back to it. And every column I carefully calculate and math check and everything. So those captions, those column captions are very carefully worded. And I just worded them pre-tax. But you notice I've also said up in the top that the annual annuity for the next payment, and this is like the second payment, you see, grows 5% per year. That is a lottery rule or regulation, that it's a 5% growing annuity. That's why those payments keep increasing as you go along, up to where, the last payment is, 4 times bigger than the first payment, even though it's growing at 5%. There's a 400% growth factor in it. It's amazing. That's the magic of compounding interest, because that's 5% of the 5% of the 5% of the 5%. Well, when you do that 29 times, the payment is more than 4 times where it started. And then you add them up all the way across, which I'm going to do. Go all the way across, all the way across, all the way across. 24, 25, 26, 27. Now, look at what's happened. Now, I know that column caption is in microprint up there, but you notice it's a $100 million lottery, but after payment 30, it only adds up to $99,999,765. So if I was actually the person officiating the annuity, which I'm not, I would have underpaid by $235. That's why it's in red. Because instead of $100 million, it's $235 short of $100 million. Well, that's because of rounding. Round up to the. We don't have round down, round up. To the. We don't pay half a penny. So when you do the compounding of, interest and so forth, you saw how much bigger the payments become. Well, when you do that over 30 payments, rounding up and rounding down to the nearest penny, you know, this one happened to, you know, because this is that 99 million. That's an add up. That's adding all that whole row. All 30 of those payments are added. That's the sum of all those 30 payments. That's why that says 99 million. And of course, we compare it to what the lottery was to a single winner. And it's $235 short. So, easy solution there. Whoops. Just increase that last payment by $235. And then that column would go to 0. As simple as that. And if I look at previous ones, see it's up 137, it's down 316. Here, the $70 million lottery I had calculated, it was only $22 over. Actually, $22 over. So all the black numbers, it's overpayment, you notice. And the... Look at this $533 million one. I was only $11 off. Rounding. Up or down. There's no... The only logic to that is it's just a matter of the, you know, whether it was 0.49 cents or 0.50. Now, there should be more black numbers than red ones, because 50 is bigger than 0.49. So in theory, you would think there'd be more blacks than red, and there are. If you're wondering. All right. I'm going to muscle out of this. I haven't lost up the spreadsheet. Yeah. This touchscreen stuff, you got to be careful. Yeah. So I always end by touching that right there and then sliding over right almost all the way across, right? So that's just a little white line down there. And then I hit this arrow and that goes back. And there's been no change in any of the statistics in the spreadsheet. So see, it shows the last time modified, April 4th at 1:52 a.m. And that's 2 days ago. Yeah, because I didn't actually modify anything this time. Thank God. And I just swipe up and it's gone. Next time I open it, it goes actually to the file and reloads it. But see, now this is a picture. See, this is a print screen of the spreadsheet. So no matter what I do, touching, banging on this, it doesn't change any values. It just makes them bigger or smaller, or you can move them around or whatever. Like any other photograph in here, you know. It's just it's a print screen. And here I've knocked off the last column. So that's the only difference between this one and that one. This shows the first annuity payment, and this one does not. But it shows, you know, how much after all federal taxes. Not dealing with any state taxes, because every state, all states are not the same. I can't say that every state is not the same, because several states are the same. But one thing I can say, all the states are not the same. And Florida is 0. No state income tax on lottery winnings in the state of Florida. So that, Jimmy, if you were to win the $100 million lottery and there was no other winner with me, The lump sum election would be 45 million. After the 24% would be 34 million. Hold on, you don't get that. You get that in your checkbook, but you better put 5,876,000 in the side pocket, because come tax time, you got to send that along to Uncle Sam, because he hasn't got that yet. He only withhold 24. You're in the 37% tax bracket. But let me tell you how to solve that problem, Jimmy. You're talking to yourself. 5,876,000. Okay. Get your calculator out. 5,876,000. Whoops, too many O's. Yes. 5,876,000. There you go. Times. You can open up a money market account for 4% interest. I understand. Times 0.04 equals. So while that 5,876,000 is sitting in that separate money market account, because you don't want to, you'll end up earning, can you imagine, $235,000 worth of interest on that money. That's a lot of money just in the interest. So you keep that in the side pocket. Anyway, so you send off to 5,876,000 and you keep the $235,000 worth of interest. Yeah. I don't know what the tax law is on that large a payment that you owe a year from now. The big arm of Uncle Sam grabs the withholding right away. All lottery jackpots, $600 and larger, are subject to a withholding tax. That's why your local lottery retailer cannot cash in your $600 winning ticket or larger, because they have no ability to deal with withholding. They're not connected to the Fed, so they can't forward that piece of your prize. But if you go to a local, a regional Mega Millions location, but in the state of Florida, there are 4, 5, 6, 10 regional offices. You go in there, like in West Palm Beach, I believe, or Fort Lauderdale, and they can cash in your $1,000 winning ticket, send 24% to Uncle Sam, and give you the net. Every time they pay out such a ticket, they have to have a place to put the money. They can't just park it in the side pocket. The 24% gets wired right to the IRS. Maybe tonight, or every time they push the buttons in their retail machine. I don't know how that works exactly. You just know it, Jim. You don't get it. The withholdings is taken out of your prize winnings, and you get 76% of that jackpot, whatever ticket winnings you have. You don't get 100% of that. If it's $600 or more, it's subject to withholdings. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Just $600. $5.99. Your lottery retailer, right across the street, can pay, because there's no withholding. $600 or more, subject to withholding. You got to go to a regional office. You can mail it to a regional office if you want to trust the U.S. mails with your $1,000 winning ticket. Certainly, you don't want to do that with a $45 million winning ticket. Yeah. I don't think the lottery people can prevent you from doing it, but you certainly would be, James, I'm talking to myself. Don't mail in. Please do not mail in your $45,200,000 winning ticket to lottery headquarters. No. Because if that gets lost in the mail, you'd be one sorry sucker. Yeah. That one you put in a baggie. You stick it in a safe place in your pants. And walk it right into lottery headquarters. Because until they take it, sign off on it, it's in your hands. Now know this, when you go to lottery headquarters, they can't pay you until 15 days following the draw date. So if the draw date is the 7th, then you count 15 days from the 7th, you know. So April 22nd or April 23rd is the earliest you can pick up your money, which in this case would be $34,352,000. As ridiculous as that sounds. Oh, God. Or your $1,505,000 if you elect to do the annuity. And at my age, I'd be living to I'd have to live to 110. No, not exactly, but almost. I'd be going for the lump sum. I'll take the lump sum, thank you. Well, therefore, 34 million. Yeah, we're gonna. That 11 million I have to send to Uncle Sam. Or 10,000,009, whatever. It is. 10,948,000 goes to Uncle Sam. Bam! Nice payday for Uncle Sam too, huh? And they're not done with you because they're going to get another 5,876,000. Because you're going to end up with 28 million. They're going to send you 34 million, but you're only going to end up with 28. They're going to send you 34, but you better save 6 in the side pocket because after all federal tax, so don't give away any more than 28 million. Yeah. Not to worry. Yeah. We don't have that many relatives. And we don't have that many. We only got 2 charities, and we only got like 10 relatives, including 4 children. So, you know, we
It's 2:30.
divide this up as per stirpes, as they say in the will and testament. We're not talking wills. We're going to hand this money out right away. Yeah. I mean, Marilyn and I will hold on to a good chunk of it. But probably a bigger chunk of it is going to be handed out in within a couple of weeks of sitting down, doing it on a yellow pad, and we just make up cashier's checks and have a lottery party here in Boca Raton. Everyone will come over here and get their checks. We ain't traveling anywhere. Nope. Everyone's invited to Florida. All expenses paid by us, including everything. Within reason. And then we'll have a dinner party and we'll hand out cashier's checks. And everybody will be happy. And if they're not, get the hell out. It's not going to be an election. Its decisions will be made in advance, behind closed doors. And I told Marilyn, if we're so fortunate as to win such a thing, I'm not going to spread the money over months and years. They're going to get a cashier's check for what they're going to get. And bingo, bango, they get it. And when I drop dead, it all goes to Marilyn. And when she drops dead, she'll have a will. We'll have a combined will, and it'll go to her, and then it'll go to me, or whoever dies first, all that. And then, whatever we got left over gets split up between the family members as per stirpies, in the same proportions as we distribute these monies, to the percent, to the 100th of a percentile, rounded to the nearest dollar, as our things are here. And I'll have a spreadsheet. Oh, you can be sure. Yes, I'll have our own separate little spreadsheet, so we can plug in the numbers and see how they spread. Yeah, that'll be fun to manufacture that spreadsheet. I'll have 2 weeks to do it, because remember, you can't collect earlier than 15 days from the draw date. That is the official regulation rule. And guess what? If you don't declare, important, make note of this, James. If you don't declare your intentions to take a lump sum within 60 days from the draw date, you're getting the annuity, like it or lump it. That's why I show that 1,505,000 in that bottom right corner. Because if you show up or make a call to the lottery 61 days from the draw date, they're going to say, sorry, Jack, Jim, you're getting 1,505,000 today, and you got 29 future payments. Oh boy. Then I gotta, that louses things up. Because then the next check is what? 1,580,000, and the next check 1,600,000, and then 1,700,000. Yeah. A lot of people are going to wait a lot of years before they get a lot of money, including ourselves. It's all right, I'll suffer along, but just make your intentions known to the lottery officials. They'll tell you how to officially do that. As your lawyer will get yourself a lawyer and make sure he keeps on top of all these regulations, because you want to do it right. If you've got your hands on a lump sum of $45 million, you want to make sure you do it right, including all the taxation situations. Yeah. The lawyer will tell you decide who gets what, and I'll tell you when you get it so you can give it. You got to get it before you can give it. You've got to declare your lump sum intentions before 60 days from the draw date. Just the draw date is the 7th. And if you are the $100 million jackpot winner, then just give yourself 5-day fudge factor. 55 days, 50 days from the draw date. Make your intentions known. Yes, sir. And that way you got 10 days of hell to pay if you got to crawl to lottery headquarters to tell them, I want lump sum. Oh my God, please. Yeah. Yeah. There's some official way of declaring that. Officially, they're going to want to examine your ticket. All kinds of serial numbers and crap all over it. You got to read off to them. That verifies who you are. You got to go to your lottery retailer, have them process your ticket, which runs off a whole bunch of stuff that comes out of the top of their machine. You tear that off and take it up to Tallahassee with you. And then when you turn it in to Tallahassee, with there's a separate form on who you are and your tax ID number and all that kind of stuff. Because when they do the withholding, and it's like $11 million, they want to make sure they got the right taxpayer. So it'd be Jimmy in Maryland. with one of our tax ID numbers on it. Yep. That's a nice problem to have, but I got that figured out. Guess another warning, James. If you don't turn your ticket in before 55 days from the draw date, you're going to get the annuity. And if you don't turn your ticket in before 180 days from the draw date, you get nothing. Because the ticket is null and void after 180 days from the draw date. That's 6 months in round numbers. So if you decided, and for some reason or other you're taking 5 months to figure out, when you're going to pick up your $1,505,000, because you can't pick up the 34 million because you're so past 60 days from the draw date, you're only going to get $1,505,000. And if you waited 5 months to get it, God knows reason, if you show up 181 days from the draw date, you get 0 instead of $1,505,000. Those are some bullet points I would suggest you remember, James. I got them embedded in my brain. And here, if you go to your basic lottery app on the App Store, I'll open it up for you. Here it goes. Watch. I'm going to touch this button right up here. You can see it right up there, right below the what do you call it? Right left of the W. Right south of YouTube. Whoops. I touched the lottery thing. It has lottery official Florida lottery colors. I'm in Florida, by the way. I'm going to touch that right now. 1, 2, 3. Boop. There it is. Florida lottery. Yeah. So they show you the various lotteries. There's Powerball. No one won Powerball, apparently. Next draw is today. Yeah. Well, I don't, so we don't know, actually, I guess, anything about Powerball. I don't follow Powerball. I'm in the middle bracket here. Mega Millions. It's twice a week. I figured that's all I want to deal with. And this double play and all that stuff. I don't know how to deal with that either. So this is the simplest one. You pay $5 a ticket. It's 100 million. There's the third. There's the numbers. 15 through, numbers. I read them off before. It rolled over to 100 million because it says next draw, April 7th. It's a Tuesday. Yeah, this is Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Yeah. 100 million. Here's Lottery X. There's Jackpot. Triple Play or whatever the hell that is. These are all ping pong ball things. Pick 5, pick 4, pick 3, pick your nose. Pick 2. Yeah. So they got, they got all these 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 4 of them, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Fantasy 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Mega Millions is 10. And then you got Powerball. So there are 11 different lotteries that get played through these 223,000 local lottery retailers. And all these picked are all state of Florida things. Not all 45 states plus 2 territorial areas I mentioned. Virgin Islands and District of Columbia. Not all of them follow all this stuff necessarily. I don't know what the other states carry. I know 45 states plus 2 territories cover Mega Millions. I don't know if that's true. It's probably not true of Florida Lotto X because it's got Florida in its name. And I don't know how those games are played and what states take them. Now, Florida Mega Millions, there is no national Mega Millions headquarters. Every state has their own Mega Millions, what do you call it? They all cover, all Mega Millions retailing is done in the same way as Florida does. But there's no national, Mega Millions headquarters, kind of thing where you have to go to some other state to get your prize. Wherever you purchased your lottery ticket from is where you'll have to go back to collect your prize money. And in this case, it would be Tallahassee. So if you bought your ticket in Miami, but you lived in California, you got to come back to Tallahassee to collect your prize. They do require that. And they will not pay for your transportation. If you live in Brazil, you got to get back to Tallahassee to collect your prize money. So if you live in Brazil, you come to Florida, buy your ticket, go back to Brazil, and you won, you got to get your fanny back to Tallahassee before 180 days from the draw date, or else you get 0. And if you want the jackpot in lump sum, you better let them know and collect your money sooner than 60 days from the draw date, I'm told. I think you not only have to make your declaration, you got to collect your money. And you can't get anything like the jackpot, earlier than 15 days from the draw date. It takes them a couple of weeks plus a day to, account for all the money and bring it all together and to get it all wire transferred into Florida, because those other 44 states and the other 2 territories, they got to wire their money in, if not already, into Tallahassee so that the grand prize winner can be dispersed the money. Can't disperse the money they don't have. So it takes them 2 weeks to do all that accounting and plus or minus and, getting after their lottery retail and to fess up with the money if they haven't already. But, all that has to be accounted for, to the dollar. There's no pennies in selling lottery tickets. It's dollars. Yeah. Anyway, that's how that works. Those are all the bullet points that I know of. So we're glad 2 pilots and 2 co-pilots, if you will, all 4 of our military people that got shot down. 2 jets went down, an F-15 and a F-15E, I think it's one, and a Warthog, of all things. A-10, it got shot down. It got a SAM right up the ass. Surface-to-air missile. Those shoulder-mounted things that push a button and phew, that thing can travel 7 or 8 miles before it runs out of fuel. I think they're, good for, go up like 8,000 feet. So it's a couple of miles. Mile and a half up. Mile and a half in every direction. They travel fast, so they see one go by, and they got one of those SAMs in their arm. They can whip around real quick and push the button. Warthog or any of these other jet I mentioned, the 15, they only have a few milliseconds to, do evasive maneuvers and launch flares or things to try to distract the heat sinking. It's usually a infrared heat-seeking missile in the nose cone of those suckers. They're very accurate. And, sometimes they miss, and most times they don't. And the Warthog is a slow-moving, 180 mile an hour kind of a, usually when most of those kinds of weapons are knocked out, there's a few laying around in the trunk of someone's car, and with all the thousands of bombing runs that were done, most of them are high altitude, so those SAMs don't operate, beyond a couple miles. So if you're up, up more than 10, 15,000 feet, those SAMs don't go that high. And they don't have, and once they finally get up to a certain height, they don't have a lot of horizontal distance to work with because they got to waste so much energy going up. Or not waste, but consume, so. In the meantime, as soon as that guy pushes the button, the jet airplane or military software picks up the fact that they've been locked onto by somebody. Yeah. And they can start evasive maneuvers, which means go up higher. Don't go sideways necessarily. You immediately start going higher in altitude. The software tells the pilot, the co-pilot, the best way to avoid being struck, depending on what kind of missile has been launched at you. I can write a book, but I do not know about that topic, so I won't even go down that path. All right, sports fans. It's 2:49 a.m. I got a dog sleeping in the box. We run that dog around pretty good today. There's some sneaky ass dog. I'm going to take a picture of said sleepy ass dog. 2:18 a.m. or 2:49 a.m. There you go. Why take one picture when you can take two? Let's see how it looks. Let's see if I get it on my big screen here. Recently saved. I never know which. No sense in whispering now, right? How stupid is that? Okay. All right. Nice thing about taking square pictures is that you don't have to worry about this way or this way because it's always square. I actually set that to be my default screen mode. So we're just going to do a little, the lights are bright. do a little trying to get the color of that coat pretty good. And then we'll go to the crop factor here and just move that down. That's so I got and do this. I'm gonna get that box. We can do a little rotation here, just a slight bit of rotation. Get that squared off. Whoops. You're doing this with your thumb. Okay. That needs to be a little different angle. That's it right there. Now pull down here a little bit. There we go. I just want to have a little bit of box. There we go. Now I think I'm going to rotate this that way. Yeah? It's okay. We've adjusted the color. And we're done adjusting. And now all right, let's send it to my 13-inch. Is it going? There it is. So now we can see it on my, now you can see it. We can both see it. I'm going to pull this over so you can see all of said puppy. There we go. Yeah. Just wondering what kind of favorite things does he have with him. He has one of those gloves. How did that get down there? I got two of them there. Must be another pair of those gloves somewhere. There you go, one of them. Oops, sorry. Inside of that box, I'll have to see. I have these two gloves right here. Not just. Oh no, that's different. I don't know what that is. That a glove or a sock or what? Looks like a glove. Looks like a thumb right there. Anyway, he's got his little favorite things. He's got a towel. He's got his arm around it. Is that cute or what? He's all, whoops, he's all inside of an Amazon box. I have to keep getting bigger boxes because this little pup is, I mean, the dog is only this big, so it's like 6 pounds tops. All right, I'm done. Say good night, James. Good night, everybody. You see up here? That's an elapsed time. It says 2 hours, 23 minutes, and 23 seconds. And this is the time of day to the nearest second. It's 2 a.m. and 55 minutes. It's going to be 3 a.m. and 4 minutes and something. That's enough. Bad enough. My watch is fully charged. I'll put that on. Yeah, I know. It's running on low power all day. For some reason. Yeah. Put my secret password in there. Not so secret anymore. And I'm going to take it off low power mode. Too sure I know how to do that. Low power mode turned off. Battery sufficiency has been charged. Good. Thank you. We've got 225 miles worth of range in our car. You can see the little car there. Of course, these lights are on. It's like at 2 a.m. they turn on the lights when the Kirby vacuum cleaners come out. Yeah. Yep. the magic of the Apple Watch. I can see how many miles we have on the range on the car. 84% fuel tank, 100% battery. Do a couple of print screens there. My Apple Watch should come up in here pretty quickly. Yeah, 2:57 a.m. All right, so we got our dog picture taken care of. 2/22, 1980. God, it took me 5 attempts to get that stupid thing. So typical. Here you go. Here's my watch face. See? That's it. I have another one of these. There's my dog. Yep, in the Amazon box. I guess that's just the thing about being all wrapped up inside of the belly of his mother. Her mother. He loves being in the box. Behind old Jimmy when I'm talking on the phone. Otherwise, she sleeps right next to me on the couch. I'm staying real close to this little. Let's see, now I'm going to touch the little dog up here. And what does it say? Does it tell you? Oh, yeah. And now it thinks it's a golden retriever. It's not 100%. Yeah, well, it's got the golden part right. The wrong breed. Yeah, we need to change that. Golden Retriever. Norfolk Terrier. It's got 2 choices, and they're both wrong. Report an issue. Yeah. Wrong results. Send. Yeah. See if I get a some kind of message saying, "Well, what the hell kind of dog is it?" I don't think they're gonna talk to me. All right, it's 3 o'clock. We're gone. Say good night. Good night, Marilyn. And everybody else. We love you.